It's not a good feeling to be homeless. It's not a good feeling to be all alone. You know, I slept in my car. I stayed over a relative's house, and I mean, they treated me like, even though they were my family, they treated me like trash. You know, when you don't have anything, your spirit is down, and I found spirit in this place.
Hello and welcome. I'm Debbie Jackson, the Community Investment Officer from the United Way of Washtenaw County. I'm here tonight as the moderator for CTN, and we're going to have a community discussion with the leadership of the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County, Executive Director Ellen Schulmeister and Board President Karen Andrews. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have limited time, however, and the issues of poverty and homelessness are substantial, as is the operations of the Shelter Association. So I'd like to start off the evening by asking the fundamental question of, what are the primary causes of homelessness, Ellen, that you are seeing?
There's really only one cause of homelessness, and that is poverty, or not having enough money in order to pay for sufficient shelter in our community. And we end up with, many people coming to the shelter, and about 70% actually have zero income, which of course equals zero housing. And so that is the main reason. And it's really the only reason. There's lots of barriers. People come with a multitude of stories and, situations, but the main reason they're there is they can't afford to house themselves.
I'm sure the viewers might be interested in knowing what a typical client or homeless person is like that you experience on a day-to-day basis.
There actually isn't a typical person, contrary to many popular beliefs. We actually see individual people of all walks of life, of all educational stature. We've seen people with doctoral degrees as well as not completing the 3rd grade. So we have the whole rambit. We have the whole scale of from young people who are 18 years old to senior citizens. So it's really and truly a mix of just individual people. So there is no one size fits all, and there is no one typical person. They're just all in the same particular situation at this time. That is, they can't afford housing.
Wondered if you'd be willing to take a minute just to remind the viewers of the scope of services that are provided at the Shelter Association.
Okay, the Shelter Association provides services to people in a variety of ways. One of our main ways is that we have 50 beds. We have a night shelter program where people can be in a bed and have intensive case management and services where we work to end their homelessness, which is our mission, to end homelessness one person at a time. And that's what we try to do with everyone who comes to the shelter. We also provide services for people who are non-residents, and that would be anyone who is sometimes they're doubled up, sometimes they're marginally housed, sometimes they're living on the street. And we try to provide life-saving services such as showers, laundry facilities, a place to store things, meals, and as well as getting on the wait list to get a bed eventually and hopefully to end their homelessness. We also are an access point for Department of Human Services, for mental health, for food stamps, for applying for Social Security, and also we have a clinic, so anyone that comes to the shelter can use our clinic. Most of our services are available to any of the people who come to the shelter, and we see over 1,000 people a year.
Interesting.
And then at this time of year, the warming center becomes very important.
That's correct. We have winter programs where we expand our capacity by having a warming center, which is a place where anyone can come in out of the weather and spend the night on our 2nd floor, which is unfortunately just a chair, but it is a place to be safe and to be warm and from the weather outside. The other program that we have is our rotation shelter, which is where we send 25 men to a variety of churches. We have 16 churches right now who are taking turns providing a week's worth of shelter for 25 men. And then we house 6 women in beds additionally on our 2nd floor during the winter months. So we're able to expand our capacity. So we can be monitoring up to 150 people a night in the winter months.
Thanks, Ellen. Karen, I wondered if you could spend a little bit of time talking about your role as the president of the board and some of the challenges that you're seeing right now in that leadership role.
Well, Deb, I have the distinct privilege and pleasure of leading a really wonderful group of volunteers that comprise our board of directors. We have currently 11 trustees, and they consist of people that have been affiliated with the Shelter Association for a long time, and those that are newer friends. And they're a very active board. Each of them thoughtfully participates in subcommittees that we have that work on specific areas of need for the Shelter Association. We have a committee that actually works on behalf of client advocacy, and so they do client surveys to get an understanding of what the citizens that use the services at the Shelter Association feel about the care and the services they're receiving. And then we also have a finance committee that provides financial oversight, as well as what we call resource development and community education and advocacy committee. So really kind of making sure that each of those committee chairpersons are supported and have the resources they need is a key role for me. And to make sure that we're meeting frequently and we're providing great support to Ellen and her wonderful team is really our most important responsibility. Some of the challenges that we're facing now are really probably not unusual in this economy. We really face as our biggest concern the availability of financial resources. We have a wonderful team and leadership group at the Shelter Association that works hard to try to educate and to gather resources on behalf of our clients, but it simply is just never enough. And so that's really a challenge for us. And so with the financial economy the way it is, our concern is that potential donors may not be in a position to be as generous as they had been in the past at a time when we're seeing the demand for our services and the need for our services actually increase. And so we spend a fair amount of time at the board really strategizing about how best to position ourselves to be in front of that if we can. But that's really for sure the single biggest challenge that we have right now.
Thanks. I know one way that nonprofits are able to help make that case is to talk about their results and the impact that they're having. And I'd like to hear about this ability you have to have a 60% success rate and what you attribute that to.
Yeah, we're really very excited about that, and that actually is the success rate from our night shelter program. And we're able to do that because in a number of ways. First of all, we have wonderful collaboration at the Delana Center. It was a community-built building, and we have brought in 30 nonprofit agencies, other agencies, and individuals in order to provide services for people at the shelter. The idea being that if we can connect them with the appropriate services, help them find housing, we focus on income, starting a stream of income, and then saving some money for first month's rent, security deposit, and then finding some affordable housing. We have a wonderful staff. People get intensive help in case management to direct them to the services. We have someone there from Michigan Works to help with employment. We have a housing coordinator who helps people find affordable housing. And it's just the total entire effort of what we do that eventually can end someone's homelessness. And sometimes it's, someone comes in and can do it within 30 days. Sometimes it's 60 days. I think our average length of stay is about 55 days right now, which is, I consider to be really good considering the economy and the affordable housing situation. But we have been fortunate in having new resources down from the state to help us with that. But I think it's really the effort of the community that helps each individual to really find and be able to relocate themselves into some type of sustainable housing situation.
Karen, you mentioned the client surveys. I'd be curious, I'm sure our viewers would be too, as to what type of feedback you're getting from homeless people who have stayed at the shelter and what they say has been most helpful for them as they transition out of shelter.
Our client surveys are really a wonderful tool, and we share the whole survey with the board. Our clients are extremely for the most part, we have very high ratings as far as satisfaction with the services that they're getting. People take the time to write us long comments and tell us exactly, what they're thinking about and where they think that we can do a little bit better. And I am actually have been pleased and surprised at the positive feedback that we've gotten. And we continue to work on the things that tend to make living in the shelter difficult. Congregate living is the biggest problem because we have to regimentate things for people getting up in the morning and going to bed at night, and there is no slack on that. And having our sleeping floors are closed during the day so that we don't have to staff them. We don't staff them 24/7. So those things are difficult for people who
the challenges of having routines
exactly,
for large groups of people.
Exactly, and it's and there's no rest. There's no Sunday morning when you can sleep in. Okay, you're up every day and have to be off the floor by 7:30, 7 days a week. So it's a very difficult and strenuous operation. And I think that people want more time with their case managers, but case managers have a caseload, and they do the best they can, and it is fairly intensive. It's no more than 20-to-1, which is intensive case management in our world. However, I'm sure we would do a little better if we were 15-to-1, but that's not the way we are. But we have tried in a variety of ways to improve what we're doing, and right now we are working on improving our culture and our focus to be housing first so that we can help more people in a year and turn our beds over faster. So we are really charging ahead.
So that's a new term that we're hearing in the local community quite a bit now, housing first.
Right.
And I wondered if you could just give us a quick summary of how that's different from how work has been done in the past.
In the past, a lot of in the last 20, 30 years, most of the social service programs around homelessness have been based on a theory of people are homeless, they're not ready to be housed, and they have to be connected to service and have some education before they're ready to be housed. So it was sort of like, you spent some time in a temporary housing or shelter living situation. And what research has found over time is that people stabilize much faster, their life improves much faster, and even chronic illnesses and situations such as mental illness or other chronic illnesses that may be a barrier for people improve like 30% once they're in their own housing. So the prevailing theory across the country right now is to have short shelter stays, move people into a sustainable housing situation that would be available, and then continue to give people housing supports and the services and connecting them to the services they need, but rather than doing it in a shelter situation, do it in a housing situation. Now, it's not realistic because of the housing stock for us to be able to have people leave the shelter in a week and regain housing. It just is not, we don't have that type of housing stock, and we also don't have the supportive services that we need in the community to do that. However, we do feel that if we focus on the housing and focus on the urgency of moving people into housing, that we will be able to at least free up our beds faster, because we always have a wait list. We have a wait list of anywhere from 15 to 20 people. They spend nights sleeping in chairs on our second floor, and so our goal is to do a good job for each person based on that person's need, based on do they have income when they come in or don't they, do they need mental health or don't they, do they mental health treatment or don't they, and depending on what the barriers are, getting rid of them as soon as possible to get people into housing. So it's just that focus. It's like a culture change of changing how we think about it.
Thanks. Well, I'm sure it takes a lot of different types of resources to keep a shelter organization like yours open. I wondered if either of you would care to explain a little bit about the variety of ways that revenue comes into the organization and the different ways that funding helps you stay operational.
Well, I think, you know, for sure over 50% of our funding comes from private individuals or corporations, and then we do certainly rely on those gifts. And we're grateful to have a broad base of support, but one of our goals and strategies is always to try to identify ways to have new friends of the Shelter Association. And one of the things that we really would invite anyone to consider is coming to actually tour the Delana Center to see that there are many different agencies, as Ellen described, operating inside, providing services to our clients. And really being able to tell that story, I think, is a way for us to cultivate and expand that private donor base. In addition, I'll let Ellen talk a little bit more, but we also get funding and support from various levels of government and grants as well.
Great,
Right. Yeah, that's the three major areas where we have obtained funding in the past, and it is we rely so much on the local community. In our funding base is really, whether it's donors, grants, foundations, it's all local or locally controlled, and so we are really dependent upon the community of Washtenaw County to support us one way or the other. And every year we sort of start at zero and go back and have to build our budget based on what we think we're able to raise. And I've been director there now for like 11 years, and when I started, the Shelter Association was raising less than $200,000 a year, and we are now this year hopefully going to raise $750,000. So, and we are doing a much better job now than we were then. And so, but it's really critical to us to have friends in the community and to let the community know what we do, and to be responsible and responsive to the community for what we do and how we do it.
Thanks. So you talked a little bit then about the financial resources, but what about the person who is just interested in helping out? What's the best way that they can get involved with your organization in a volunteer role, or groups that may want to find out if there's special needs that you have there at the center?
That is quite easy. We try to make that as easy as possible. We actually have a volunteer program. Our total volunteer program we right now have about 400 volunteers, but we always need more, so don't let the number scare you off. We have our clinic that we run is all volunteers, so anybody with medical background or we are more than willing to talk to you about doing a clinic or joining one of the other clinics that's being done right now at the Delana Center. Also, we have a need to have just folks who want to come in and help our operations assistants on their shifts to talk to, be with people, talk to people, perform phone answering and helping people with their laundry and things like that. We have many hours of volunteer opportunity to do that. We have a breakfast volunteer who comes and gets the breakfast for the residents and brings it up to the floor and helps the operations person to set up coffee and a sort of a continental breakfast, which is a very fast way of coming in and doing something if you're an early bird. We also are always looking for professionals who are willing to share their professional knowledge with us, such as we have, as an example, we do have a lawyer who comes in and will give people legal advice. They don't do case finding, but they help people talk over some of their legal issues, as well as we are always looking for dentists. If there's any dentist out there who would like to volunteer services by taking on one or two clients, dental care is something that we really struggle with, and we'd be happy to have that. So really anything that you might be interested in doing, give us a call and we will be happy to do that. Rose Angel will talk to you and see what you would like to do, or Ruth Shabazz will, our program director, and we'll fit you in because we're always looking for help.
Great, thank you.
Another good thing is to visit our website, which is www.annarborshelter, all one word, .org. And we have a wish list posted there that will talk about if perhaps you can't give a large block of your time or you can't commit to a schedule to help out, but there are things that you'd like to do. Maybe there's a drive at your office or your place of employment for blankets or toiletry items or things that are on the wish list, scarves and mittens. That's another great way that we've had people help in the past, and it's very, very welcomed.
Great, thanks. I'd like to shift gears for a minute. You spoke earlier about part of your success being due to this large number of agencies, other agencies that you're partnering with, and wondered if you'd spend a few minutes to talk a little bit about the Washtenaw Housing Alliance and the Blueprint to End Homelessness that you're very actively involved with, and give us an update on that progress as well.
I'd love to do that. Housing Alliance is close to my heart. We've been partners. I was a founding member. The Shelter Association was one of the founding members of the Housing Alliance, and we are presently working on the Blueprint to End Homelessness. We launched it in 2004 as a collaboration really from across the nation. Counties, cities, states are taking on the banner of trying to end homelessness in 10 years. And we all are developing local plans and working on them. And we were the first in Michigan to do a plan to end homelessness in 10 years, and we are focused on trying to develop, not necessarily build, but to increase the resource of affordable housing by 500 units, either by vouchers or utilizing current housing or building if necessary, or purchase and rehab with help from HUD and our state partners. And we are also working on a variety of other projects that have to do with the Housing Alliance and its partners, both members and non-members, working on the long-term plans and making sure we're staying at a macro level to deal with the problem of homelessness instead of approaching it in a Band-Aid sense. That's how we started, and that's how we have progressed. We are now working together to try to inform funding in our community. So we are working with our funders, the United Way being one, where we are trying to collaborate so that funding is informed and by the nonprofit organizations, and we are all working on the same big picture so that we are setting goals and objectives to fill gaps and to streamline our services, to reduce duplication, and to raise the efficiency level of our administrations to try to make sure that the most dollars are going to help people. So, and those partnerships are valuable because it also helps us to work better together and to make sure we're in contact, and so that services are not slipping through the cracks and not getting to the people that they need to get to. It's a great organization. We do a lot of work. I spend a lot of my time doing that because we feel as though, again, as the shelter, we are the temporary stopping place, but we have to be a flow-through place. And we can't be that if we don't have affordable housing and services on the back end, and if there isn't, and if we're not working on prevention on the front end. So that's what the Housing Alliance does. We're trying to address those whole issues in order to reduce and end, really, if we can, homelessness.
And so what are some of the other examples of partnerships that you have at the shelter that you think are exciting and that you're putting a lot of energy into as well?
Yeah, we have lots of exciting projects that we're very happy about. I have to say that the clinic is the #1 partnership that we have because it's actually many projects rolled into one. We have nurses from the schools of nursing. They come in and they do 4 health fairs a year. We have doctors from the University of Michigan that come in and do a clinic on Monday nights, and then we have a residence clinic that happens on Wednesday afternoons. We have public health comes in and does a clinic, and so we have this whole variety of people coming in and serving the population so that we have a clinic nearly every day of the week, which is really great. And we've had many people for whom the clinic has been the lifesaver, in the sense that we had one person who came in who got sick on the job, eventually lost his job, lost his home, lost his apartment, came to us, got connected to appropriate health care, and is now back working and paying his own way. And he was just, that's what he needed, was to have the focused health care and insurance to make sure he could take care of his medical needs. So that's one of our most exciting things. We also have Veterans Administration people who come in every week and help to get our vets connected to their benefits, which frequently doesn't happen. We have Washtenaw Literacy. We hook people up with Washtenaw Literacy in order to help people who need help with reading, which is often a huge barrier to working. So we have we have actually many projects.
We have Michigan Works.
Yes.
Right on the center, and we have a wonderful dedicated coordinator that spends, is it about 20 hours a week, Ellen?
Yes.
With us, and he's a very passionate advocate for the clients and determining what they're qualified for and teaching them about job-seeking skills and interviewing skills. And so that's been really a beneficial part of also, as Ellen talked about, having people work productively in the income savings housing model.
Yeah, right. And we have a variety of, we have psychiatric services with the Project Outreach Team. They're one of our major partners, and we work with them, and they come and do, the doctor comes once a week and has appointments and sees people. And we also have a variety of substance support services. We have a person who came in and has volunteered to do one-on-one counseling. She's a clinical therapist, which is something that's a great need. So.
I think one of our other really exciting partnerships is the community kitchen.
Yes.
And so we're very grateful to the community kitchen and to Food Gatherers for their support for the lunch and dinner program. And they serve, how many meals a day would you say,
They
Ellen?
do 2 meals a day. They do lunch and dinner 5 days a week, and then they do a hot meal on Saturday and Sunday. It's all done with volunteers and rescued food, and it's really, they have great meals.
I have a feeling we could talk a long time about
we could.
all the other partnerships that you have as well. And I know from being familiar with the organization that a lot of those partnerships are featured on your website. So again, viewers can access that and learn more about what you're doing. The time has gone really fast tonight, and I hope we have a chance to continue this conversation some other time. But again, thank you both Ellen Schulmeister and Karen Andrews for being here tonight, representing the Shelter Association, and also like to say happy anniversary to you, Ellen, for your years of service with the organization.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, this has been a most interesting conversation. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope you have too. There are many important agencies that deserve your support, both morally and financially, and certainly the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County, who we've been with this evening, is among the most worthy of such support. I hope you'll join me, the United Way, and the many other community supporters who provide the Shelter Association with the resources so that they are able to help neighbors in their time of need. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really great. Thank you very much.